Welcome to the latest episode of the Scale Model World podcast with me, David Howell from Tyrell Models, and
Wayne Green from the world of Wayne. The Scale Model World podcast.
Well, welcome everyone to this latest episode. As usual, with this podcast series, I'd just like to remind everyone that this series is absolutely about model making, but it's model making in all its forms. And what we really do mean that in all its forms. We'd like to really reach everyone that is a part worker, of course, but also anyone that's building a sort of scale model kits in the traditional sense and everything in between. This series is really sort of designed for everyone to really connect the audience together. I'd also like to say to everyone that if you do want to get in touch, if you have any questions, any queries that you'd like us to maybe discuss on a future episode, then please do get in touch. So there's lots of email addresses all over my website at Wayne. So yeah, please do get in touch with any questions you might have. Now, normally at the top of these things, of course, when we always talk about what we've been up to, and I think from a couple of your live streams recently, you've been sort of ridiculously busy.
Well, funny enough, yeah, I've been busy, but for other reasons than you normally expect. Normally, I've got like a load of build-up models coming in, and I've got loads to build. I mean, at the moment, I'm looking at my pile as of today, and there's only 5 things there. Normally, I have hundreds. What's made me busy this week is that I've had a laser engraver delivered, and I've had a brand new Kiddie X+3 printer delivered, which I'm having an enormous amount of fun with. And as you can probably expect, I'm actually building the Vincent model from the Black Hole again, but I'm building it half size, which is ginormous, and it is taking up all of my time at the moment.
Well, it's got a new kit, isn't it? It's like a new toy, and everyone kind of gives their new kit a bit of a bashing, really.
Well, with the 3D printer, I mean, I've used 3D printers before, so I kind of know how that works. I haven't got a clue how a laser printer works, so I've been trying to train myself with a program called Lightburn, which basically I can use engraving and I can use cutting as well. And the fun thing is you have to have different settings of speed and power for different materials that you use. And you can create your own sort of like diary. So every time you use that material, you can go back to your reference and see what you used. So at the moment, I've burnt and engraved. I've done paper, I've done wood, I've done metal, I've done everything, plastic. I've done everything. And sometimes it catches fire. It's not all good. It doesn't always work. But at the moment, I'm redoing the plaques that I had on the side of my workshop, which were in wood. And now I've decided to do them in metal because they're going to weather the storms a lot better. And I've managed to get that down to a T. So in the space of a week, I've gone from not knowing anything about laser engravers to knowing pretty much a lot.
Well, it's great because, as you say, you have a sort of a recipe and you just dial in the settings and away you go, which is great. I mean, that idea, I mean, those little tags, they look like dog tags, don't they? And that's a great idea. You can I can see that in my mind's eye, how the side of the work will be covered in those over time. That looked fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, because what we had 176 people on the side of the workshop when we had the wooden plaques, and that took up that whole side wall. What I'm going to do now is once we've got 176 tabs up there, I'm going to have still 3/4 of that wall that I can still do promotions every year to raise money for the chosen charity of that year. So that's what I'm going to do.
Well, I think that's a great approach, isn't it? Because moving forward, you can do lots and lots more for charity, and of course, have something to sort of commemorate it, because that's kind of what it's about, isn't it?
No, definitely.
I think that's a great way of sort of recognising everyone that's sort of helped out with the charity or the workshop or whatever it is. I think that's a great thing. That's a great thing to be doing. Now, of course, for you, is it this week? I think you've kind of gone back to your roots a bit, haven't you? Back to the D. The DeLorean's coming again, and even the Millennium Falcon's coming again. So for you, it's a bit of sort of step back in time.
It has. Well, the Millennium Falcon, I haven't arrived yet, but I've signed up. It has been shipped out, so that's on its way. I did the first Star Trek Enterprise D this week. And last week I did the first DeLorean. So it was back to 2016 or 17 again, whenever that came out. And I've actually got the next pack of the DeLorean here as well. So that's on its way. But I mean, I've had a lot of good feedback about the Enterprise D. It is going to be vanilla. A lot of people ask, am I going to be modding it? I'm not going to be modding it. But there's so many people wanting me to mod it. I am tempted to buy another one and not do it on the channel.
Oh, really?
Not do it on the channel. Just do it in the background and then say, this is what the Enterprise D looks like when you build it. Or if you were going to mod it, it looks like this sort of thing, you know?
Looks like this. Well, absolutely. I haven't got to make the choice. Absolutely. Lord, I was really going to put 2, but there you go. I think you kind of worry about that later. I'm having slight panic attack with where I'm going to put Robocop when it arrives.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure yet where it's going to go, but it'll go somewhere, as that's definitely my next build. But then, of course, I forgot that I'd also signed up for the DB5.
Oh God.
So where's that going to go? So it's one of those, because I'm waiting for something to finish. I'm nearly there with a DeLorean, because that will then free up a space. It'll free up a shelf in my workshop, and then that's where the DB5 would go.
Well, that's what I didn't realise. I didn't realise models have a shelf life. So when they're on the shelf life and you think, you know what, that model's not doing it for me anymore, it needs to be swapped out with something else, then that, it's a rotation thing. Otherwise, if we kept every model we did, we wouldn't be living in our houses.
Well, you can't be done. I think you're right. I think that's something the scale modelers who listen to this will understand, because their stashes grow and grow and grow, and you get to a point where you're never going to build all those guys ever. Yeah. There's not enough time in your life to complete the build of all the stuff in your stash. But that doesn't stop you buying new stuff, because you see it and you go, yeah, I'm attracted to that, and you buy that, and hopefully it will go onto your build schedule. But it's one of those. You can't kind of stop yourself doing it, really. No. And of course the manufacturers don't help. This week Airfix is still banging out some new stuff. Really like the look of the Land Rover Series 1 pickup. That's looking really nice. Again, they've got another E-Type Jag, and of course good old DB5 raises its head again from Airfix. But interestingly, in 143, which is interesting for me, because I build cars and they're always 124. I might get a couple of those in 143, because I've never built stuff at that sort of scale, and just to see what that feels like as a kit. But Airfix they've really been tagging up my credit card again this week. This stuff. There's lots of different things out there. Mini art again, they've been doing that. There's lots of stuff coming from September, particularly for your diorama builders. Lots of interesting stuff. So it's one of those. It's a sweet shop, and it's kind of which sweet do you want.
It is interesting to see the release schedule. I don't think I've got the eyesight for 143, to be honest with you.
Well, I have very good magnifiers for all that.
Well, I need magnifiers for my magnifiers, I think.
Oh, geez, is that bad? Well, I am due a test, so I'm always a bit apprehensive when I get near Specsavers. And so how bad is it going to be this year? But it's one of those. I think as we get older, you just have to accommodate it.
Yeah, definitely.
I suppose that's the word. For you, are you going to actually do the seeking because you've got it? Or is it on your schedule, or has that been pushed back?
No, it's on my schedule, but it's always going to be on my schedule on the last half of the year. So we're going into the Christmas period. There's going to be two models that I've saved specifically for that time, and that is the Eiffel Tower from IXO Collections, and I want to do the Seeking from Airfix. But with the Seeking, it's funny because you can it's modular. You can do different bits at separate times. So I am going to do all the internals first, and then worry about the actual helicopter afterwards. So I think that's the way I'm going to tackle that.
That's interesting. I wonder if that's something that Airfix sort of listen to. How do you build your models? Can we do that until you can build a bit and then put it aside? I do something similar. I usually have two on the go. So if I've had to paint something and it's going to be overnight or 12 hours to dry, I'm not going to sit there for 12 hours and do nothing. I have another model to go to, and so on. Or I get a part work out just so I've got something to do. That's interesting. Yeah, it's a modular approach. That's
because you got to remember a lot of Seekings. Not all Seekings had the winches. Not all the Seekings had the all the computer systems inside. So it gives you the option that you can mix and match to how you want it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're about talking about I guess modular. You've sort of embraced Gundam in a big way, haven't you? In fact, the rest of your family has embraced Gundam.
7 models so far, and my daughter's done 3 of them, and she's managing to complete the models half the time I am. But I did see someone was showing me these like half-size Gundam, which are like half the size of me. These are ginormous things. These are. They go for about £300 to £400, but I'm like, it is tempting. It is tempting.
Really, you're tempted. Oh, I had a really light. It was. I think it's sort of about 18 inches. This kit. I bought the kit. The box arrived. This huge box, size of a suitcase. Yeah. This box. Unpacked it, and it was something like 30 or 40 sprues, or thereabouts, and I kind of backed away. It's in the loft because that's a big build, and I think I need to sort of work up to that with a few smaller kits before I sort of. I think I bit a little bit too. I really couldn't chew that,
No.
but I didn't expect it to be that much detail and there are that many sprues and that many parts. I
Yeah.
thought, geez, that's a big build.
No, but it is nice to see that. It is nice to see that, especially when you open the box and you see that you have got like 8 or 9 sprue trees, and you just think because it's amazing how much area that takes up in a box to how small a model can
Yes.
be once it's all in. It's very
Yes,
interesting to see how that
absolutely.
works.
Well, I had that issue with that kind of thing because I unpack all the sprues, of course. Where the hell do you put the sprues?
Yeah.
I've got them all over my bench trying to find D, E, F, A, trying to find the next part. So I think I need to be a little bit more sort of regimented
Yeah,
with how I sort of
definitely.
label these things. And I've seen people on sort of YouTube channels. That's what they do. They have racks of these things all set up, and it's all put into a rack with properly numbered, so you can reach for the sprue you need. So maybe I need to be a little bit more tidy, I suppose, because I'm a really untidy modeler. My bench when I'm actually doing something looks like a grenade's gone off.
That would
It's
drive me
crazy.
crazy. That would drive me crazy.
Well, I always tidy up afterwards because I am a bit of a tidy freak. I do not like mess, but when I'm building, I just put stuff down. I don't put it back, when it should be in a holder or a Z compartment or whatever. It's everywhere. But then when I've finished, I do tidy up, clean my bench, and when I've finished, it looks like I haven't even been in there. So it's a bit odd when I'm actually building. I'm concentrating on the model.
My desk is clean, but I can still have problems where I put the screwdriver down and then it just disappears in the space of 5 seconds. It's like, how can that happen? How can that happen?
Where's it gone?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same principle. You lose socks in in tumble dryers. Where do they go? Where do your pens go when you put them on your desk, or when you go back of the sofa? Where I've lost. Where do they go? It's some fairy nicks all this stuff. So I don't know what that is, but it's a bit weird. In fact, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was you surfaced yet another sci-fi modelling event which is happening, and I'm talking about the Garage Kit show, which I didn't even know
Yes.
existed.
Well, it's in Cheshire somewhere. It's in Crewe actually. It's near that. It takes me about 2 hours 15 minutes to get to. It's on the 30th of September from 10 till 4. It's free entry, and it's all garage kits, and it's all the sort of thing that you'd find at Wanderfest, to be honest with you. Your sci-fi models, your horror models, that sort of thing.
Yep.
It'll be the first time I've been to it. I am going to go just to see what it's all about. I don't really know what it's about, to be honest with you, but it is going to be interesting to see what's there. So I am going to try and document that as well.
Yeah, because I checked with the organizer because I couldn't find it online, but he was kind of sending me the poster and the flyer. So it's in Middlewich in Cheshire, which actually is not that far from me.
Wow.
I'll probably get to it in just over an hour or so, hour 15, hour 20.
Wow.
So it's absolutely, if I can get over there. But it's on a Saturday, which is odd for a model show.
That's
Normally
right,
it's
yeah.
Sundays, but it's on a Saturday. This one. So it may be sort of schedules clashing, but I'll kind of have to see. But that would be an interesting one.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, because I remember I'm going to that on the Saturday, and on the Sunday I'm at the NFL at Wembley. So it's
Oh wow!
So it's
you
a
do
busy-
get about. Geez, you do drive around. Crikey. I mean, I hardly go anywhere. My car sits there and does nothing for months on end.
well, you have to drive around
and
at the
then gets
moment because all
out-
the trains are on strike that weekend as well. So it's not going to help
Well,
any of these events out.
although the trains are on strike during the NFL.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
Terrible.
obviously that's why they're on strike. Obviously, maximum disruption, etc. But it's like,
Yeah.
geez, guys,
Well, we've got strikes one weekend, and we've got track works for the whole East Midlands Railway on the other weekend. So it's
Jeez.
like, it's terrible.
Well, it's kind of one of those. But again, if anybody can sort of make the Garage Kit show, please do come along. I'm hopefully going to make it. Obviously, it depends on schedules, etc. But it should be an interesting one. But you can find the UK Garage Show on their Facebook page. So it's in the Middlewich in Cheshire, and that's on Saturday the 30th of September. So hopefully we may see some faces show up. As I say, I've no idea what it's like. I couldn't tell how big it is, how small it is, who's going to be there, what's going to be on show. We can kind of guessing, but I think it should be an interesting one. Particularly, it's these smaller shows which are more focused, which of course we've had
Yeah.
conversations about before. That
Hmm.
these smaller shows, particularly with the bias towards sort of sci-fi and fantasy, they do seem to be growing, bigger and bigger.
Yep,
There seems to be
definitely.
more of those around. Although I have no idea how long the garage show's been going. It could be decades, and we just didn't know it
Well,
existed.
it must be really well known because people from abroad know it, and they're saying about the big show in the UK, and I thought they were talking about
The
Telford,
big
and when
show.
I realised they
Yeah,
were
yeah, yeah.
talking about the UK Garage Kit show, I was like, oh, okay,
Well, there
so
you
it
go.
could be interesting.
Best kept secret.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that could be an interesting one to unpack, and probably go onto the diary for for the rest
yeah,
of our
definitely.
lives. But we'll kind of see how that looks. Because I do like a garage kit.
Hmm.
I do. I really do like that. Because I'm looking to try and diversify my store into a first kit. I'm trying to identify something to build as an actual first garage
Yeah,
kit, because I quite fancy doing that. Using 3D print technology, of
yeah.
course, that kind of thing. Not going to do. I can't do injection molding because it's way too expensive. But with 3D, of course you can. And the quality I'm seeing off some of the prints I'm seeing these days, and some garage kits which have been 3D printed, they are
Yeah.
absolutely stunning. Saw a few kits coming out of Hungary the other week, and the detail is just bonkers. It
Yeah.
really is. So 3D printing and model making, it's kind of the future. It really
No,
is.
definitely.
I think we're all going to be building either complete kits, or at least some of the parts will absolutely be 3D printed. I think that's absolutely a given. Well, before moving on, I'd like to talk to you all about a company that we've been working with, Agora Models, the home of big scale modelling. Agora Models has transformed the world of scale modelling since they launched, largely due to the company promise. The Agora promise is designed to re-establish trust that once a new model has been launched, it will not stop production until every part of the kit has been produced. The Agora Advantage Club rewards customers, giving members early access to new models, but importantly, ensures the customer care experience is world class. Whether you want to build a museum quality car, iconic vehicle, or love sci-fi and fantasy, there is a model in the Agora range ready for you. With exciting new models coming this year, including the first of the James Bond collection, if you have always wanted to build a model, Agora Models invites you to join a massive community of fellow scale modelers. Visit agoramodels.com to discover their ever-changing range of museum quality models. Well, we've come to the part of each podcast where we welcome our special guest. Well, I'm delighted to say that our guest today is Todd McWilliams from My Partworks. Well, welcome, Todd.
Hello.
Hello, Todd.
Todd, I say welcome again to this episode of the Scale Model World podcast. I guess what we tend to do with all of our guests to start off with is, I guess, a bit of background. I think we all know sort of My Part Works, but kind of where did that come from? What's your background? Where did I guess the idea come from? How did sort of My Part Works sort of get going?
Well, I blame it all on Wayne.
Oh no, you can't do that.
It all started in 2017 when I saw an ad for
Mm,
the Eagle Moss DeLorean,
yeah,
and I really wanted it, but I couldn't afford it at the time. Instead, I intently watched Wayne's channel, getting more and more excited until I could afford it about a year later.
sure.
But as I was signing up, I thought perhaps I would create a similar YouTube diary, something like that. But there was already so many people on YouTube, these amazing content creators, and I don't like being on camera. So instead,
Okay,
I th-
yeah.
I thought it would be interesting to build an interactive website that would share my journey via photographs and my own take on the build experience. And it quickly took off from there. I love the DeLorean so much. I actually signed up for the Mercedes Gullwing and the James
Yeah,
Bond
yeah.
DB5 right after that, and created build sites for those two. And it just kept growing and growing until I built so many models with their own domains. I needed some kind of parent site to kind of bring them all together. And in January 2020, I started mypartworks.com.
See, I'm slow on the uptake because I didn't realize that you obviously started with the DeLorean. I only associated the name Marvel Phoenix, or Marvel PHX as I used to call you, with the DB5, and I naturally assumed that was your
Yeah.
first build. So it's interesting to hear that it was the DeLorean first that set you off on that road.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And it turns out it was actually it got us so much traffic, and it started getting a lot of kind of a following, that it was a really a great way to get information out when Eagle Moss folded.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
day they
sure, of
went into
course.
bankruptcy or administration over there,
Uh,
I started digging into like every online business and shipping record I could find. I spoke to people who anybody would respond, from people that worked at Eagle Moss through like LinkedIn to actual partwork manufacturing companies such as like PCT, IXO, Eligor, any of them. And I learned a ton along the way. And I there was such a communications vacuum at that point because we weren't getting anything out of Eagle Moss, that I put it all together and started posting updates to a page and to help others understand what was happening. And it's sadly, I feel that that whole event tarnished the whole partware market for a lot of people, and I think it's going to take time to recover from that.
Well, I think that's probably a separate conversation, but I'm sure we can absolutely touch on that. In fact, that's something I definitely wanted to ask you, Todd. Is just that. I guess my perception, of course, from the partwork is in the UK. Is it a very different beast in the US? My perception from several years ago that partworks were kind of, well, what's that? We don't understand that. We understand kits, model kits, plastic kits. Partworks, not so much. I think it's changed maybe over the last few years, but a few years ago, was that not the case? Were partworks not popular, or was it a market that was kind of burgeoning, but really wasn't getting going as we see it today?
Um, I think it expanded everywhere because of the pandemic. Um,
Sure, sure.
with so many people stuck in their homes for such a long time, hobbies such as model building expanded in popularity again.
Yep.
When I first
Indeed.
started with Partworks in the US, that was like 5 years ago now, there was a very limited selection. You basically had Diagostini, Hachette, um, or not even Hachette. You just had
you had
Diagostini,
just
yeah,
Eagle Moss.
Diagostini and
Yeah.
Eagle
Yeah,
Moss,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
But they're all based in the UK, France, Italy. They're not really here. Um, and while the US is a huge market, those companies have to buy new and probably even more expensive licenses to sell here. So Model Space, which was Diagostini's arm here in the US, kind of evaporated and became Fan Home. And
Hmm. Yeah,
but now they're pushing even more into the US, right? And then Agora Models now is carrying Hachette stuff here. So that is
Yeah.
that is helping a ton. Yeah. I think we have more options than we ever had before, for sure.
I'm actually starting to see that the other side of the planet now as well, because Australia was having the same problems as well, and Australia is really starting to get some stuff now. And funny enough, closer to home, and I know a lot of the people listening to this are going to like me mentioning it, but Holland, Netherlands seem to be left off the map. I don't know why, but they're
yeah,
starting to get
yeah.
theirs as well now.
And also, you always think that I guess focus markets for plastic model kits, like Germany, for instance, that you would imagine it would be massive there as well, and that the suppliers would support those marketplaces. But as you've often said, Wayne, on your channel, it's all about the licensing, isn't it? It's not a case of we can't supply you. We can absolutely do that. We can put these models into your country. But are we allowed to do that? Do we have the licenses, etc.? It would be fab if we could all just choose a model we'd like to build, and it doesn't matter where we are on the planet. But of course, real life isn't quite like that, is it?
Well, it's definitely country based and sometimes even regionally inside the country, when it comes to licensing. So but you know what? I was just looking a couple days ago, and Diagostini has added two new countries that were not there before.
Mm,
They've added
yeah, yeah.
Serbia and Bulgaria, I believe, now that they're
Oh,
offering a
Mhm.
couple
yeah, yeah.
Partworks too. I maintain a big
Uh-huh.
directory. I decided to. Oh, I should have never done that. Uh, I cre- I created a Partwork directory on mypartworks.com that has a list
I
of
know. Yeah,
every Partwork I could find for each
yeah,
country, and where to get them, right, and with links.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
Mhm.
I just had to add. I think it. What was it? Was it the not the RoboCop? Um, it was Iron Man or something. Oh, now I can't remember. Transformer, something like that, or Knight Rider even. Knight Rider is being pushed into tons and tons of different um, countries. So
Yeah.
Because it is
Yes.
interesting to see that in our country here, where we had the Eagle Moss doing the DeLorean, that was available through D'Agostini in Japan. So it's interesting how different
Yeah.
companies can pick these sort of things up.
I mean, the resources you put together, Todd. I mean, that's what it is. It's a fantastic resource. I know it might be a pain to keep it up to date, as these things tend to be. But it's a kind of destination site because if you're looking for information like that, there is nothing like it. There's no directory out there as just somewhere you can have a look. What would you like to build? Is it available? Can I access it without having to do massive amounts of web searches and spending lots of time doing that? And I think that's why my Partworks is so successful as it is, because it's literally serving the marketplace that is craving information, as you said. Often we kind of on our own, we have to find this information ourselves and trip over things. It's just not very well publicized. I had no idea Robocop was coming to the UK until I just tripped over something on a website. We just it's just the nature of the beast. So the kind of information you put together is it's a godsend for the Partworks market.
Well, I think it was early, not last year, the year before, and I was on a vacation in Hawaii, and I got two phone calls in the same day, randomly. One was Eagle Moss and one was Agora, and I thought it was the strangest thing. One, how did they find me? But and both of them wanted to this. Obviously, maybe it was 2021, but both of them, like, hey, we want to work together. What do can we help work out here? And now I talked to Agora, I talked to FanHome, I talked to Eagle Moss a lot when they were still around. I think the only people I don't talk to are Hachette, but it's helpful, because when stuff is coming, you can prepare something, or you get a little insight to it, and it's not just my builds that end up on my Partworks now. When new Partworks are released or there's some kind of news out there, it's kind of a little central hub I can use, because I'm the same person. I'm just like you. I mean, I want to know what's coming. I want to know what is available. What's the latest scoop.
So how did a lot of people discover my Partworks then?
Well, I have my parent site. So every one of my individual build sites, and I have 19 now. Every one of my individual build sites links back to my Partworks. Like the shop is located there. And it says my other sites, and the very first one is always my Partworks. So they're kind of all under that brand, I guess.
So is your perception then, Todd, that because they are now calling you and want to have that conversation, that the whole industry is paying more attention? Now, is that simply because there's more of us building these things? And well, again, that's a positive thing maybe that came out of COVID, because there's simply a bigger market. Or is it something else? Do you think that the companies that we've mentioned are literally just paying more attention? They're doing better marketing, better communication, or is it just that the marketplace is just so large now that it makes sense to do that, to reach out to people that have large audiences and that can connect with obviously their customers?
Well, I just think a lot of people didn't know Partworks were not something very popular here in the U.S. I mean, we don't get television adverts, right?
Wow.
They'll be on Facebook, they'll be on Google ads or something like that, but we don't. I've never seen one on television. So
because you never got them on the newsstands either, did you?
No.
Because when I used to mention news agents, no one knew what I was talking about in America.
Good point. Yeah.
I didn't know what news agents were for years after following you.
Wow.
I had no idea. And I mean, we have bookstores and we have shops that would sell magazines, but not very much, not anymore.
Wow.
So it's having a Partwork on a shelf has never happened here. It's basically always been online, and since those companies aren't really based here, they all use third-party logistics, right, to ship out their parts, and they have somebody else warehouse it and deliver it, and then they got to deal with the pain of the customer getting the wrong parts or something. It's not, they didn't even do it. It's some third party that's putting the stuff in a box,
Yeah, to be fair, the only company that does that still now is Hachette Partworks. In this country, they still deliver them to the newsstands, and I can go down to the news agents and still get those, like the Batman tumbler and stuff.
So what happens if you miss an issue? Like if there's a week you're out of town and you didn't get that week, can you ask them?
They can actually the new, well, we use W.H. Smiths. You've probably heard of them in America. They've got a backlog of 3 weeks. So as long as you get it within that 3 weeks, they'll be able to get stock of it.
And of course, you have absolutely no perception of these weirdness which goes on in this country when they're doing testing. Certain areas of the
Yeah.
UK where you can get certain part works and you can't get others when a new one's coming. A 3-part or a 4-part test. I mean, can you imagine trying to do that in the US? Where would you go? Where would you test that? Would you only test it in Arizona and nowhere else? I mean, you just wouldn't. But that still goes on in the UK, and for the life of me, I cannot understand why they would even do that. I just don't
No,
get
and they normally pick the sleepiest fishing village with like a population of 10 to actually display it in.
I don't understand the testing at all. I really don't, because like for example, they tested the Peterbilt, which is a
Yeah.
truck, a tractor trailer truck, and
right.
they
Yeah.
tested it in France. And I said, well, I'm thinking,
Okay.
okay, it's an American semi tractor trailer, a- and you're doing it in France? Like, it's not a Scania, it's not a Man, it's nothing. It's a Peterbilt. Like, you should have done that in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
I
and
know.
of
It's weird.
course,
Yeah.
it never saw the light of day. But then they have other tests that make no sense to me. Like, how did the Hogwarts Express not make it to a full run
Yes.
when it has
Absolutely.
No
such a
idea.
world following? The only thing I can think is when they do testing, they don't have to pay license, and so they
Yeah.
can run those four and see how it goes without having to pay
Could be.
Warner Brothers. And
Yeah.
maybe they said, oh, the licensing is good, too much. We can't do it as popular as it is.
Well, we're hoping to get someone on, from one of these companies to explain it to us if we can find one who will actually come on and sort of give us a sort of inside take on how this stuff actually works, the mechanics. But I think you're right, Todd. I think it must be the licensing. It always boils down to the licenses. It seems to be it.
You should get Liam from Agora and sit down with
Hmm.
him. One, he loves to talk, and he loves this stuff. This absolutely loves large scale models and the whole thing. And he is their license. He's the one that went and sat with Hasbro
Indeed, yes.
for the Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
So
Yes, Liam is on my
it's
he's on my list. Absolutely,
for
he's
sure. Yeah.
hopefully coming very very soon. Yeah, but I do want to try and get someone within one of the the current part working production guys. If I can find someone who would be happy to come on, but they are very very difficult to find. Now you mentioned crossover, Todd. I also wanted to get a feel for that with the US market as well, because in this country, I think using Wayne and I as an example, we build partworks. We also build obviously scale model kits as well, plastic kits. And we've often had a conversation where there can be a brick wall between the two. That you're either a part worker or you're a plastic model kitter, and the two really don't mix. I think Wayne and I absolutely we build everything. But what's it like in the US? Do you find that as well, that part workers do not build single model kits, or vice versa? Or is there an absolute mix of people that will build both kinds of kits because they're just builders?
Well, I guess it depends on if you consider assembling a mostly pre-painted and decaled parts as model building. There's a lot of debate around
Mm,
that. Personally,
absolutely.
I see more and more classic plastic model builders trying out Partworks and enjoying them just as we do.
Good,
It's
good.
simply a
Yeah, yeah.
different kind of construction with the same results. You have something you created yourself. You
Indeed.
can proudly display it once you finished. You can build it stock. You can
Indeed.
detail it like crazy. I mean, I see a lot of plastic model builders take the techniques they've learned from plastic model building, such as painting, filling, sanding, whatever, and make their part works even
Hmm.
better. But I don't see them
Yep,
not
indeed.
enjoy it. Um,
Yeah.
I think that it's something that everybody should at least try.
It's an
Yes.
interesting question. We've posed it quite a few times before, but I think if you're creating something, regardless if it's a part work, if it's a kit model, and even like I've been experimenting with the Gundam kits now and the
Yeah, yeah.
3D printing, I think it's all just going to mesh and meld into the same way, and it can be just as Todd says, interchangeable between each other because you're using skill sets from one thing onto something else as well.
Oh, I
Absolutely.
just
And
built my
I
first
just think,
Gundam. I loved it.
I think it's horses for courses, absolutely. But I think you're right, Todd. If you're from a classic scale model building background, plastic kits, um, that will help you massively. It certainly helped me. I mean, I was I just nearly finished now the DeLorean, and I was going to get a flux capacitor and the Christmas tree ready built, from Chloe. But it occurred to me, well, I could build that. There's a kit. I can build that. I can paint that. why don't I do that? Because I have the skills from the plastic model kit to be able to build the kit. So I'd have to wait a few months for Chloe to build one for me. Just send me the kit and I'll do the work. And it was fab. It was great. Building those components, installing them, flick the switch, and it works, which is great. But if you have those skills, then I think the crossover is very useful. But I guess the part working, I guess, ethos is if you don't have those skills, but you still quite fancy building the new DB5, you can. And technically, you need a screwdriver and a bit of glue, maybe, and probably a bit of oil, and that's it. If you can follow instructions, you can build this thing to museum quality, and that's kind of the USP, isn't it, for part work? So if you don't have a sort of plastic model background, you can still build these kits. I think that's a message which is quite strong to get across to people that maybe think I can't build that because I don't come from a plastic model kit background.
Well, I think there's even within plastic model building, there's groups. There's people that build plastic models
Yep.
and do everything, paint every part and cut the sprues a certain way, and they build these plastic model kits. But there's snap together model kits too. There's snap tight and things like that where there's no
Indeed.
glue
Yep.
needed, right? You can just snap the model
Indeed.
together.
Yeah.
And those are separated. They said, well, that's not real model building either, but it's all model building.
Well,
It is all just you're taking something that is in many 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 pieces and you're putting it together. And at the end you have this result, and it's whether it's a wooden kit, there's wooden kit, it's a 3D puzzle kit,
indeed.
it's a
Indeed.
what's that Metal Earth, where you have the little metal tiny
Yeah.
little metal
Yeah.
pieces and you twist the
Yeah.
tabs. You're assembling something, and you at the end you have a nice product at the end. And I don't. To me, the lines are blurred. I've done them all, and I enjoy them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the absolute point. But I think the scale model kit building community, I think they still do frown on part work a little bit. When I finish my DeLorean, I'm going to take that into my local IPMS group, which I meet with every couple of weeks, and just plonk it on the desk and go, there you go, guys. What do you think of that? And just see what the reaction it is, just to see, because I get that kind of reaction as well when I bring sort of 3D printed stuff in. Oh, that's not model making. Oh, that's just a paint job. That's not what's that? 3D printing isn't model making. Well, again, there's a debate around that as well. How far? What does that mean? But I think it's just that it's whatever gives you pleasure. Then go for it. If you feel that you want to try this stuff out, then absolutely go for it. And Partworks do allow you to get, it seems to be, easy access into creating something which looks amazing. Because you've often mentioned this, Wayne, on your channel, that you kind of get to see what the finished model is going to look like in all the videos which say Agora put out and others. And you can see
Yeah.
when I finish, that's what it's going to look like in a year or maybe even two when I finished. And
Yeah.
that's a big selling point because you can kind of see it. You can't really see that with a plastic kit. It's just a piece of artwork on the box. And that's the
No, well,
difference.
that's partly the things that with Todd's site when I was building a DB5, Todd knows that I abandoned the instructions very early on and went to his DB5, my DB5 site to actually do that, and being able to actually look through until the end and see how it's going to look and what thing's going to go. It does make life easier because you can actually figure out where it's going to go rather than have to take guesses at the time. But I'm just wondering, Todd, with your My Part Work sites, was that made because of some of the frustrations you had with building something, or is it the frustrations that you've had people come to you and say, "I just don't understand this. Can you explain it?"
Well, I mean, again, it started with the DeLorean, and I had followed Partwork, like Facebook groups. I had read a lot of things online about, and there was people had build diaries and forums and things like that, and then of course, all the YouTube creators. And
Yeah.
I said, if you've ever seen a black part being attached to a black part with a black screw on video, you'll know exactly what I mean. You can't see it. No video can capture that well unless you have just extremely good lighting and sensitive cameras. So I said, I'm going to go a step further. I love photography and I have a nice DSLR setup. And I said, I'm going to get in there and get those pictures. I bought huge floodlight setup, like big softbox setups for my desk. And when I started, I had a 2 foot by 4 foot desk with a cutting mat and a screwdriver. And that's it. That's all I had in a camera.
Wow.
It's grown from there. I have a whole modeling room now, full of
Yeah.
paints and 3D printers and
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. But it all
Tell me
started
about
with
it.
just me and a camera and a screwdriver and just putting it together. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna mods this. I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna paint this part. I'm gonna try this. Things I hadn't done before. And I said, but I'm gonna document it and I'm gonna write it down because maybe. And if I try to keep things at a easy level, if it's something super complicated, I try to either break it down and explain it into multiple, I'll write multiple pages, like the Enterprise, for example, that whole remodel with the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will break it down, not just, hey, here's an Arduino code, connect all these wires and you're done. I'll say, this is how a MOSFET works. This is how resistors work on an LED, how to calculate it yourself and give people the instructions to do it themselves and learn along the way, because they'll pick up new techniques, things that I've learned. I'm just sharing the same thing.
Yeah. So some of these builds must take an insane amount of time for you then, because I can just like do it live, edit it, it's ready to go. But for you, you're having to stop, take a picture, get the angle right. Yeah, I can't fathom how difficult that must be.
Yeah, I mean, for a single set of like 4 stages, I'll take about 1,000 pictures.
Wow.
Jeez. Wow.
And then I take those into Lightroom and I'll pick, because, well, you're trying to get a very fine, sometimes very small parts. First of all,
Yeah.
the screw heads do not like to focus very well. Um, and so I'll take multiple pictures of each step and then pick the best one. And then that whole photo editing process, then color correct them, straighten them when they're crooked, get the right cropping in place, all that. And then that probably takes 4 to 8 hours of photo work per 4 stages.
Wow.
And then you got to write
That's
the
a real
articles and
labor
put
of
them in there.
real labor of love there, Todd. Wow.
And then you got to draw circles and arrows and put graphics on
Yeah.
and all that. It takes a while.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's massively useful. I was trying to do the mod for the EL wire, and without your step-by-step instructions, I don't think I'd have completed that. To be honest, I think even
Well,
Chloe
and everybody
points
learns
points
differently,
points
right?
everyone. Yeah, so video, if that's your thing, yeah, stop, pause, and do that. But if still photography is your thing as well, if that's how you sort of visualize stuff, I think both things are absolutely valid, and I've used both together. I've watched the video and then looked at some photography on your site, and then the sort of light bulb goes off. Oh, it goes there, not there. I got it backwards, or on back to front, or it's upside down. So I think both resources are massively useful to the community.
Sure. Like I said, everybody learns differently, and some people like to see it in a 3D space, which is what video is great for. And uh, you know, everybody who's worked on YouTube knows you want to keep your videos short, and so they can consume that whole issue in 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where mine is a different format, where maybe you throw it on an iPad or up on a computer screen, and you can scroll at your own speed, right? You can
Yeah.
read a stage, you can
Mhm.
go through it, you can read in
Mhm.
advance the whole issue, and then go back to the part you want to read and just keep that on the screen until you get through it. It's just, it's nice because nobody was doing websites as far as I could tell, and I said,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw that out there as something different.
Yes, and as I said, it's absolutely unique in the marketplace, really, and do continue. I think as we accelerate forward, I think we were having this conversation the other day, weren't we, Wayne? I think how many are you doing now? 20. You're doing 22 model builds, aren't you, at the moment,
22.
Wayne? 22, which is
Yeah.
insane. But hey, there you go.
And the Millennium Falcon was just confirmed today.
Wow.
So I've got RoboCop and the Millennium Falcon coming. So
Well,
all
what's
fun.
next for you? What's actually in the works for you, Todd? Are you keen to do RoboCop? Is that on your list?
I'm torn because I just finished Iron Man, and I've heard
Ah,
it's a better build than Iron Man was, and all of the exterior body panels are actually metal on RoboCop, which is nice.
mhm, yeah.
Iron Man was a lot of exterior plastic pieces, which is,
Mhm.
but when I start thinking about, you spend all this time building just a leg, and then you got to do it all over again. When you spend all the time building an arm and you got to do it all
Yes.
over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It started
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
Terminator, then it repeated itself again with the Iron Man, and it's going to repeat itself. I'm doing the Fan Home Optimus Prime. It's going to do it over again. You
Ah,
got to build everything twice.
Mhm.
yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know about the RoboCop. I considered the Agora models, the new No Time to Die DB5, but I've already built one. Since I built the Eagle Moss
Yeah.
DB5, it's a whole new model. Agora started from scratch with theirs, and they're not compatible in any way. But I just I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna wait for the next 007. They're the Wet Nelly, the Lotus Esprit
Yeah.
submersible.
Yeah.
I definitely want to build that one. I did start the La Ferrari, which originally came out in like 2013 from Hachette,
Yeah.
and then
Jeez,
it was
wow.
Centaria. Then it got retooled, and it's back. And I was looking for that one for a long time, and I love it. You know, um, but I am doing the Millennium Falcon. I've heard great things from people that have built
Hmm.
it. You
Mhm.
built it, didn't you, Wayne, already?
I did. I built it already,
Yeah.
but it was the only one that I didn't really document. I only documented it about a third of the way through the build, and most of the time, then it was one camera on a live stream, so you couldn't really see what I was doing.
Yeah.
But now with my setup, now I think it'll make some good videos. Of course, the Mrs. Welder Wayne's giving me that look as if to say, "Where is that going?" Because there's no place for the original ones.
Well, see, and I have the big Lego. I love building Legos too, because
Wow, you
to
built
me
that
that's
one. Yeah.
just assembling, right? And I built that big,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the big Lego Millennium Falcon, and this one is about the same size. And so
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
don't know where I'm
Yeah.
gonna put it. I think it's gonna end up mounted to the wall because I don't know
yeah.
where it's gonna go. But this is, I've been looking at other people and what kind of paints to use, and I wanna try something new, which I've never worked with oils. And so I've seen a lot of
Hmm.
people
Yeah,
using
okay.
oils for like the
Mm.
streaks and
Yeah.
shading and
Hmm.
things like that. I totally want to try it, so I'm
Yeah.
going to do that with the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I used real oil for mine. I went to my car. I did an oil change. So there's about 3-year-old oil in there. Seriously. And I covered the whole thing in oil. It stank for about a year, honestly, of just that oil smell. But I'll tell you, the effect was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely
Oh
amazing.
man.
Why
Yeah.
could I
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
you doing that and with your tongue sticking out? I could just see it.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. If it works, it works. I'm all for using real life to help with your model making. That's been going on
Yeah.
for decades with plastic kits, oil paints, etc. That kind of stuff. It works, and the skills have been sort of perfected over years. So I don't see any reason why you can't just apply that to Partworks. Absolutely.
You know what I would love to see come to the U.S. would be the tumbler. I don't know why it's not here.
Mm,
As
mm,
popular as
mm.
Batman is, the tumbler is not here. It
Yeah,
has to
yeah.
be a licensing thing because it's DC and that's a whole thing. But I want to build it. I've been watching the builds. It looks great. I want to build it, but you can't get it here in the U.S. and I'm very sad about that.
Well, I
Oh.
think
But you never know. One day
it's
you
that.
might get it.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it's hopefully things how they decide. I don't know. I just love to be in the meetings of all these partwork companies and how they decide what we're going to go after next and who we're going to give it to. More importantly, which countries aren't we going to go anywhere near? Because we just can't afford to do that. It's an unfortunate thing. It'd be great if there was a central warehouse and you could just buy this stuff from a central warehouse and they'd ship it to you no matter where you were on the planet. But unfortunately, that's kind of a bit of a pipe dream, I think. But I do hope you made me think twice about the DB5 because I think your input would be fantastic for that. Although I'm anticipating Agora will do a very, very good job of the instructions and all the rest of it. And as you say, I think Robocop. I'm hoping it is a better build than Iron Man was. Mine's finished. But if I look at it too hard, something drops off, or if I touch it, something drops off. And it never quite fitted together. I can't get the upper and lower torso to knit together no matter what I do. So I think I did a sort of, I finished this video on my channel and it was, it was okay. It looks fab when it's finished, but the build quality, I'd give it a 7 out of 10, I think. Because there were a lot of head scratching with some of the instructions weren't exactly the clearest on the planet. Not really. But I think between you two guys, hopefully we will have a very easy build of both of those if we need help. But we'll kind of.
The funny thing is, just talking about that Iron Man build, the when we were talking earlier about the trials going out for this. When the trial for Iron Man came out, obviously, sorry, that's the dogs. Yeah, I'll have my new dogs. When the trial for the Iron Man came out, the first issue was the helmet. And that trial is probably the most successful trial I think I've ever seen ever. And it just, the views on the channel just went through the roof, which made me think, why have you put the most iconic thing as the first issue when people would just be happy with that helmet? and just forget the rest of it. So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
you'd think that would be the last thing to do.
A lot of people
Oh,
did that. They bought all the bits and pieces, put the helmet together, and so that's it. That goes into my collection. Happy days.
Yeah.
I don't want to build the rest. So,
and it lights up.
Yeah.
You just bought a
Yeah, that's
little
right, yeah,
helmet,
that's right.
and it cost you $1.99, and off you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you
That's
go.
crazy.
I'm sure the
Absolutely
marketing
crazy.
people thought it would be a nice hook to get to build the rest, but and I'm sure for most people it would be. But for collectors or people that maybe collect maybe toys or something, it was just a fantastic piece for their collections. It's just the way it is, I think. But
Well, I gave 6 away because I found a place in Wolverhampton, your neck of the woods, Dave, that had the trial of it. So I just bought every issue
the
that
whole
they had,
lot.
and I
Yes.
just did I just did giveaways on the channel. So if they were doing trials for marketing purposes, I think I've just thrown that completely out.
Well, absolutely. I think it's just one of those. It's like what they're going to put out for for RoboCop. I suppose if you put out I don't know, a finger as a trial, that's not going to fly, is it? Or a foot, that's not really going to fly either. So it's a marketing thing, of course it is, just to get people interested. But I think the hardened fans doesn't matter because you're going to build it anyway. Take my money, please, and ship it to me.
Well, saying that, Dave, actually, Todd, can I get your can I get your opinion on this? Dave's just saying about take your money with the amount of Partworks that are coming out, especially with Fan Home at the moment, that seem to be doing a new one every week, and the cost of these Partworks. Do you think there's a danger that it could be over flooding the marketplace?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because Eagle Moss went under by spreading themselves out too much. It's possible, but if the stuff comes out in, everybody likes something different, right? There's definitely two camps for Optimus Prime, right? It's do you like Gen 1? Do you like the Bayformers, the new one?
Yes.
I don't think those step on each other at all. Star Wars is always going to sell. Star Trek is always going to sell. The iconic movie cars are always going to sell. And I think that it's more of, can they keep it around long enough? These Partworks take so long to build, 2 years plus, that if if I start the DeLorean today, can I start the Ecto 1 in 2 years? Is it still going to be there? As long as they keep it around, I think they're fine introducing, more stuff along the way. Me personally, I'd just be worried, right? I'd be worried that the Ecto 1 would go away in 2 years, and I wouldn't be able to build it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those, isn't it? I was slightly surprised when I saw DeLorean's back again. I was going to say so soon, but it's been a break. So clearly they've thought, well, of our catalogue, what can we bring back? What can we keep constantly reissuing? Obviously, the DeLorean's obviously the first one. Whether the other companies will do the same kind of thing, as you say, Todd, or it goes away after the first run. I guess it's how many people bought the thing. Ultimately, is it popular enough? But we aren't privy to those kind of marketing numbers. We just don't know. We have no idea of how many people bought the thing, or even how large the marketplace actually is. I think for people that want to build multiple models, that may be an issue. If you put a very, very large dent in your credit card every month, if you've got several interests. But yeah, I think you're right. I think for me, it was that a few years ago. It was a case of, I can't build the whole thing, all of these together, but I will build one and then pray it's available in 2 years, 18 months. I mean, now because we have accelerated builds, don't we? We can build these things in, I think, is it a year now for Agora? I think you can build these kits. And that accelerated build, that's an interesting change. And also, I've seen on your channel, Wayne, you've been shipped complete kits. The whole thing is in a massive crate, and it's everything. That's the entire kit. There it is, and off you go.
You get a full crate of gits, and you also get a full crate of stress.
Absolutely, and that's an interesting one. What do you want to do? And I like getting them. I like the monthly thing. I'm debating whether I go 12 or 24 months with the DB5, which I'm going to build. don't want it accelerated or don't want to stretch that a little bit. So there's, parts to look forward to and to do the next bit at the weekend because something's arrived in the post. I quite like that. Other people, I guess, again, from maybe a plastic model kit background where the entire thing is in the box, maybe they rather have accelerated builds or even entire kits, which are available. I don't know. It's whatever you want to do, and of course, whatever you can afford.
Well, it's some of it's logistics, right? I think that if all of these companies, Gore already does, but I think if they all did, once the parts have run full run, because right when they start a part, they might order the first 6 issues from their manufacturer, and the rest aren't even made yet, right? Like if RoboCop is brand new, I think it's done a full run in France. It's been around. RoboCop's actually been out for quite a while.
Yeah.
But as long as all of the parts have been manufactured and are stored in a warehouse, they should. Fan Home should do that. They should sell them as full kits because there's a lot of people, especially there were people worried about it even before Eagle Moss went under. They were worried about a company disappearing, right?
Yeah.
And if they sign up for this 2 years, how do I know you're still going to be around? And nobody thought Eagle Moss was going away. I mean, we had inklings before it happened, but up until that point, nobody had any idea that they would just disappear. And so, being able to buy them as a full kit, being able to buy them all is great because you can still build at your own speed. Some people want to build super fast, and some people, just take a little longer, and they're okay with paying and dragging it out and saying I can do I'll spend a few hours every month. So I think it would be very beneficial to be able to offer them as full kits too, just for both sides of the coin.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're almost on time, Todd. I guess I'd like to close really by asking you, I guess what's next for my Partworks? Is it really just expand into the next set of builds, or do you have any different or new plans for my Partworks, or is there something else in the works that you can tell us about?
Oh, more Partworks. That's I'm building. I think right now I'm building 7 individual Partworks at the same time concurrently. I have 19 different build sites, and I'll just keep adding more. It feels like things are starting to finally ramp up, like we've been talking about, and we're going to see more Partworks released even before the end of the year, and then into next year. Some will be re-releases. Like the Millennium Falcon coming back. I firmly believe the X-wing is going to follow. I think the X-wing will come back again.
Sure.
And some will be all new, and I'm sure that a few of them will be crossing my workbench. So, and keeping the directory updated, and I think that's going to be an ongoing thing that'll keep me going for a while. And then, as news and bits or tips and tricks, how to airbrush and things like that, I'd like to throw on there.
Well, again, thanks for joining us on this episode, Todd. We'll hopefully be able to speak again soon. If anything sort of happens in the future, I'm sure we can get you back on for a chat. But that's been fantastic.
Great, glad to be here. I had fun.
Well, everyone, I think we've probably come to the end of our time with this episode. As I said at the very beginning. Please do get in touch if you have any queries, any questions. So this podcast series is absolutely for you guys, you model makers out there. If anything you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, please do get in touch. We're trying to line up a few more guests for future episodes, so please do stay tuned for that. So until the next time, it's goodbye from me.
Yep, take care. See you later. The Scale Model World Podcast.